Right.
Here goes. Well, I did announce it, and that's an interesting question. Like, where could I announce it better that everyone would see what the next topic is going to be? Where would make it more obvious? What could I do? I guess I could tag people, but I'm like I don't want to be one of those
I
social
hate being that
media
guy too.
places that like tags everyone on everything to let them know, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing. Like I want people to be interested in what I'm talking about and what I'm doing and want to be here. That's what I prefer. Um, so I don't know. I'm open for suggestions. I have a suggestion area in here, like of what to do, but I don't know if I'm going to capitulate to announcing everything that I'm doing in that way. I'm sure. I'm not sure yet. But beyond that, the topic today is something that's kind of like a long-standing pet project of mine now, and from the best I can gather, it seems to be a unique take on evolutionary selective pressures. Um, so if I'm talking about evolutionary selective pressures, I'm talking about things like, the one that most people heard of as natural selection, you know, I think popularized by Darwin, um, or at least well known from his writings and contributions to science. Um, So we categorize these various mechanisms of selective pressures in evolution, right? A couple others to name beyond natural selection might be like group selection. E.O. Wilson, I think, was one person who started kind of the revolution of group selection, and this is like what pressures are existing that make groups have influences over certain types of evolved behaviors between groups of whatever individual in biological life we're talking about. Um, kin selection. People might be familiar with kin selection, which is like you were born into a world where we're kind of already socially adaptive to our parents because we're typically born into a mother and that mother cares for us, so we make a bond there and we build trust with our mother, and then our mother has trust with other people like the father and the other people, the siblings, and so we know to trust these people. And these were evolutionary pressures from a selective standpoint that kind of helped us evolve these layers of trust and ability and yada yada yada. um, just to kind of frame selective pressures at the most abstract level as I possibly can. It's not agentic, if that makes sense. It's not something that is chosen. It's something that by what pressures are available, it can cause a positive or a negative or anywhere in between type of a pressure of evolution. Does all that make sense?
Oh, so you're not wanting to talk about like sexual selection because that would
That's
be like
another
an
one. Yeah,
individual.
that's another one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another type of selective process, right? Or a selective categorization.
Yeah.
Sexual
Choosing your
selection.
mate.
Yeah. So we've talked about natural selection, group selection, kin selection, sexual selection. There are tons of them. There are a million of them.
Yes.
From what I understand, this particular take is unique. It's something that people have not really talked about yet. um, I haven't found it yet, if it is. Now, it does group in lots of other areas. So I'm literally building on the shoulders of other, number one, selective processes. This doesn't create the whole notion of selective processes. This is a notion that exists, and it's just how we categorize these different pressures in systems of evolution. So this one I call logical selection. All right. And what logical selection is, instead of like physical and biological and emotional and reactants and all this stuff that we have against each other socially, this is our capacity to think and retain knowledge and retain collective knowledge. And collective knowledge leads us towards the best truths that we have, which would be like theory of correspondence, correspondence theory, which tells us to take consistency and skepticism and fallibility and all these things into consideration when we're talking about what is factual truth, right? Things that are consistent, basically, things we can prove evidentiarily. We've come a long way in that process, in that particular process. And the thing that we've proven over and over again in history, and I have a lot of kind of examples built up of this, is the more resolute our processes get to identify these consistencies, the more we can dispel the bullshit. I like to bring up an example of like Galileo, for instance, and the heliocentric versus the geocentric models, right? For a long time, we thought it was geocentric. We thought we're the Earth, everybody's kind of rotating around us, and we're the center of the universe, and yada, 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 right? Well, hundreds of years before that, maybe thousands of years before that, somebody had already thought of and mathematically calculated some effectiveness of the heliocentric model, which is we spin around the sun. But at Galileo's time, it was a transitional period of like he was really putting the evidence together and saying, this is the truth, right? This is like I can calculate all this stuff. But it was the dogma against him that imprisoned him, that, countered this particular belief and fought against it. And we eventually transformed into what is now commonly understood as the heliocentric model. This is like a piece of evidence of logical selection. Like we move towards what is true empirically, provably, versus what is true of what we can think of metacognitively, if you will, or in the philosophy realm, metaphysically. We know the things that we can define metaphysically can go well beyond the means of what we can rationalize and justify to physical reality. Yet there's a slow evolution of people in that realm who move into this like more philosophical notion. This is more real than actual reality. So I guess I don't know if I summed up selective processes well enough. And, I come up with this example of, there's a lot of examples of why, we could start back in early history when, I forget the name of the philosopher. I am horrible with references and names and stuff like that. I just don't have the mental capacity to remember names. But it was like Theades or Theocles or something was like one of the first written philosophers, and he thought everything emerged from water. Water was what formed life, right? And then you can think of the evolution of that from there to, say, for instance, the elements, right? Then we moved from water to earth, wind, fire, water, right? And these were the things that life emerged from. And then we started getting more resolute from there. We started, well, earth is made of stuff, and water is made of stuff, and fire is made of stuff. And, so we started kind of really getting more refined into the details. And as we got into those details, those systems kind of got excavated. Are there people in the world today that still believe some of those things? Yes, that's the sad part. Like, the sad part is some people, I don't know about water, like that's pretty radical, but there are witches still that exist that believe things like this, like the elements and or the astrology, the planets' alignment affect how we behave. I'm preaching and ranting
No, you're not.
at the moment. But
I have to rethink my whole life. What do you mean astrology isn't real?
But this is what logical selection is the closer we move to truth, the more that these beliefs, these older beliefs, don't hold up to those consistencies, and the more we can kind of, resolve them. Now, logical selection is not that empirical ultimate thing, because we know things that are not true. Like in the stuff that we know today, we know we're going to prove some of it either wrong or off or, so logical selection is a selective pressure in and of itself, right? We have factual information from empirical evidence and observation that are moving in and out constantly as we're proving and disproving things. We do have this huge body of stuff that we've proven almost to a T, were it not for a whole lot of other things. It's pretty fucking consistent right now. Like we can fly to planets, and we, that's a pretty detailed level of consistency that we can identify and mathematically calculate. Now, we haven't figured out how to sustain population, but that's a whole other argument too. But I'm just saying we have those capabilities. We can map all this shit out. We have general relativity, special relativity, quantum mechanics. We know things at a very detailed level down to quantum uncertainty. And then all the way up to the maximal level of everything we can see in the observable universe, which is getting further and further with the James Webb Space Telescope and giving us new understandings that we didn't know before, like how long proto galaxies have existed versus what we calculated.
That was an amazing announcement I read the other day.
Yeah. So this is this logical selection notion that there are selective pressures against evolution to what we know and what we can know. And the more we know, the more we select towards things. Now, here's where I'm going to take a jump. It seems the more we know on these sides, on these evolutions, the more closer and resolute we come to the universe, the more we move to things like basic human rights. Now, I'm not moralizing here.
I don't find that to be that much of a leap, though, Jeet.
Yeah, I'm
The
not.
more the more we realize that we are just a lucky accident here.
Mhm.
The universe created us by accident, and it kind of when people stop thinking that they're so special, then we tend to treat each other better.
I agree. That I like that. That might become a short. um, I totally agree. And like I said, that the basic human rights. I went back to basic human rights. It's like if we can just look at it at the empirical level and say a human life, living or dying, is not a good or a bad thing, but we know what it takes to sustain a human life, right? A human life needs sustenance at the most general level. Need food, water, appropriate environment, lack of bullets and swords and things like that going through it. Um, in order to sustain life. Like that's not a moral thing. That's like this is where we start moralizing, where we're like, okay, we're fighting them because so we can justify running swords and bullets through them. Now we're looking at it from the perspective of does this really need to happen? Or are there other ways we can manage this scenario that don't involve swords and bullets going through people? And for what justifications, right? Um, anyways, this is my own pet thesis, if you will, and it's from all I can tell so far unique. It's something that people haven't really ventured into. I find it kind of fascinating, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. Um, and that
It's an
only took
interesting
me
concept.
that
I
only took
like this
13
concept.
minutes.
Well,
Um,
this is something good to think about. All the other ones we can see obviously, like the triggers and the driving forces behind them, and this one is a little bit more subtle.
yeah, I guess I would frame it as informational versus and that's funny because that crosses the boundary of metaphysics, right? It are things that are informational metaphysics. I don't think they have to be. Um, I think we can derive things out of physics and biology and life and evolution that are not moral but are just truths and facts. Like the time we start to impose our normativity, like what we feel about something, is where I think the problem goes wrong. You know, um, you know, um, yeah, I don't know. Like people who claim to be moral individuals think Israel's doing a good thing right now. I I'm sorry to go political and swing a different direction. I really
Okay.
don't want to do that, but I just want to bring up an example that's visceral. That's like I don't know how you
Well,
get there because for me the best thing to do is stop killing people, stop judging people, stop. Let's
you
figure
could have
out a
used
cooperative solution.
you
Um,
could have used ICE as an example here because
yeah,
there's a lot of
sure.
moral people out there that think that what ICE is doing is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I can also look at ICE but Don and I went through this today. I can also look at ICE and say, I know why these people fomented. I know why they are there. It's because of what they've been taught, what they've been trained to do, how they've been raised, it's their experiences. I'm not judging that ICE for the actions that they're doing. They are literally just being the people that they were meant to be. It's the fundamental systems that want this judgment in the first place that are going wrong. And until we fix that, I think we're going to have a long history of much more pain and suffering. Will we continue to be what I call an evolutionary fit species? I don't know. That just means we go extinct or not. Um, you know, I often make the comparison like Elon Musk could become emperor of the earth and it could propel us into history, and maybe humans could reach entropy and figure out if we can surpass it or not. Entropy of the universe, ultimately, the thermodynamic end, the big chill, the big crunch, whatever you want to call it. Um, yeah, I don't see that happening in that fashion, but it's a possibility. Um, So I don't blame ICE. I don't blame them. I don't blame Donald Trump. I don't blame all these people. Like, I just want to stop all the blame, and I want to I want to plug the holes and fix the problems and move forward to a unified goal. I
That
asked
is a huge goal.
I asked Rev this morning. I said, is just human survival, lack of extinction, is that a good enough goal for us to come together on? you know?
So what was your answer, Rev?
I'm not sure we could get 100% participation on even that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's the
Wow.
thing. I don't want to force participation. That's the other hard part. But what are we doing now? We're not forcing participation either. So why is that any better or worse? You know? Apparently, you can tell people not to be moral, but they're going to, or immoral, but they're going to do it anyway. And we
True.
know, and we know empirically cycles that create people to be immoral. You know, I don't see a better approach than empirical resolution. Like, we know impoverishment has high rates of crime. We know crime can be enculturated. And now we look at the enculturated crime as a moral problem that we need to deal with authoritatively versus why it happened to begin with and what we can do in a society going forward that would mitigate these problems from occurring. If we give everybody dignity and respect, and we give them sustenance of life and the ability of opportunities like everybody else, that shit ain't going to be there. I mean, it'll be there in like maybe small percentages, edge cases of people who have natural genetics that just say, I need to kill people to make myself happy. That's like, I think, small percentage of possible calculability within genetics. Everything else is environmental. Like, they grew up in some sort of fucked up environment. Um, and I don't think there isn't a person on this planet that really can't say that to some degree today. Like, that they didn't grow up in some degree of a fucked up environment. Something that empirically, psychologically, sociologically, we know we could help and do something about. Educate people, give them housing, give them sustenance, give them, dignity and quality of life. I don't understand the whole why someone deserves something over me. I'm born into a world where everybody already owns everything else.
Wow. Really need to get my wife in here one of these days. Man, you and her would just agree on almost everything.
Well, all right. So here, let's do this again too, because I did this with Rev earlier today. One of my own also philosophies is I'm not here to tell you how to live. I don't need to agree with you, and I don't need you to agree with me. I think that's part of the problem too. I think part of the problem is our consummate desire to need to tell other people what to do because this is the way we feel about it. I think if we can get past that, I don't care what other people think. If you have something interesting to say to kind of help me influence my own view, I'll take that into consideration. I'm a fallibilist. I can be wrong. I can change my mind, but I change my mind. You don't change my mind. You know, that's why I don't like debate. I don't like debate because just because you win a debate doesn't mean you're right. It just means you're more confident, better at selling your idea, maybe more knowledgeable in a certain area, something I can't refute. Fuck that notion. I'm about building knowledge and coming together on an answer rather than me saying it's mine, I did it. Uh,
That's a pretty good philosophy to have. Uh, Unsolicited advice from people trying to tell you how to live your life is it's never really welcome, and generally, uh, the response would be like anger or hostility, or at least just closing down and not listening to them at all.
sure, but you want to know something? It's part of our evolutionary psychology. It's called conformity bias. It's called norm enforcement. It's what we do. We can track this in primates. And we can track this in other creatures that aren't primates at more rudimentary levels. It goes into things like proto-normativity and, you know, evolutionary advantages that were good in small numbers. Now that we're at such massive numbers and so interconnected, those evolutionary processes were not meant for what we're living through today. We're still going to live through them. We're still going to learn our lessons. And I think we have a choice. I think we have a choice to learn those lessons long, hard, and painful, or short and quick. As short and quick as possible. Doesn't have to be this, doesn't have to be this, doesn't have to be a switch, but we got to start going in the right directions and leveling people to what we know. That's the education part. And to get the education part, you need a consistent home. You need a healthy environment, psychologically, physically, sustenantly. We need to guarantee these things to people because there's no reason not to. The only reason not to is I deserve more than you. And I got to tell you, I've told you this before, even at the most progressive levels, I hear people say, well, not mine. You're not taking my stuff. There's some level of inequality is okay. You know, I personally don't live there. I don't live in that place that I deserve anything any more than anybody else. Unfortunately, because of the things that I'm imposed with, I have no choice. But on the other hand, I've also done well for myself, so I'm comfortable and happy. So if everybody wants to keep that attitude, fuck them. Let them have it. I'm happy. I can live through it very comfortably, including for my family. I calculated the other day, I think we're in about the upper 8% of society. So if people don't want to come to rationality because of their selfishness, I have no choice to continue being selfish too. Um,
So you calculated yourself to be in the upper what, 8%?
yeah, roughly somewhere around there.
I'd say I'm probably in the lower 8
Yeah, and I'm sad for you for that. Like I
for this.
believe, I believe people are deserved, comfortable. We have the ability to provide comfort for everyone. We have that ability, period. We don't, it's not even questionable. Like we can go through the statistics and all that stuff if you want, but the only time it ever becomes a problem is like, well, no, what about this interact because they're not getting what they need to get out of it because, blah, 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 blah. It's all that slow negotiation of power and control over someone else and the outcomes.
The funny thing is, though, Jeet, that my wife and I, even though we are not well off at all in any way, shape, or form, we are some of the most generous people I know.
Well, of course, I think that makes sense.
You
When
know,
you've
because
when you've
we're
experienced
already
it,
when we struggle, we don't want to see other people go through that if we can help it.
yeah. Well,
You
I can
know,
tell you I've been there too, man. I wasn't born into wealth. I was dirt poor when I got let go. My father died. My mother had no money. I was on my own, and she left the state. I started with nothing, and within a decade, I bought my own house. Within that, and after failing high school completely after 5 years and graduating with a 1.35 average, I made a long, successful career in IT. And, we're doing extremely well now because of this. So I'm not looking to judge anybody else's position to mine. I'm just saying I understand that circumstances are not equal. Entitlements are not equal. Outcomes because of those things are not equal. I don't deserve to be but what else? What do I gain by just becoming something that everyone else is when they won't even give it up themselves?
Yes, I agree. That's it. Everybody I think has struggles. Even rich people have their own,
Of course
probably
they do.
different kind of struggles, but and I guess it's just harder for the poorer people to find their way out of them without
Well,
somebody out there to help them.
yeah, I don't think it's the poorer people's responsibility to find their way out of it, personally. I think we're a matter of circumstance. Again, I was born into a world where everything was already determined, right? Wealth was already distributed, and for some reason, everybody is justified in having whatever distribution they were born into. I wasn't born into a wealthy family. Is that my fault? Did I check that box before I was born and said, no, I want to be unwealthy?
I think I want to be
You
born into a
know?
poor family, please.
So, this is all this shit, all this guilt, and that we apply to each other that makes us say we should just be happy and satisfied. No, not at all. We should Nobody on this planet, in my opinion, should be happy and satisfied except for those who have it, and that's like, and unfortunately, I'm in that number, to some degree. I don't want to be. I didn't choose it, but if I can, I'm going to do the best I can for my family. Everybody else has got to give up their bullshit too before I can invest myself in this. I'm willing. Um,
So am I, because I don't have that much to give.
well, I think you deserve
So
more. You do a lot of good, man, and I appreciate everything you
I
do.
try to do as much good as I possibly
Yeah,
can in this world.
yeah.
I was raised by a very good mother.
I don't want to throw resumes on the table. That's the worst thing to do. I have my own things that I do in my ways. That's all I can say. For instance, let me give you a for instance. My wife is from a very impoverished nation, that's basically in civil war at the moment, controlled by an authoritarian militarized dictatorship. They still have chattel slavery, essentially. They go to ethnic regions and they take people up for work, don't pay them, they force them to do it. It's that when they have project, like the place is just, it's kind of horrendous on the humanitarian scale. We build houses for people who don't have houses. So, I mean, I don't, I can't destitute myself for everybody else because I'm not an Elon Musk, who could literally solve a lot of these problems in almost one fell swoop. And at least an isolated nation in which could build itself to work on helping other nations and stop judging them and say, here, do this, but like we don't need to get involved in your politics. Figure it out. We figured it out ourselves. You guys figure it out yourselves. All we can do is lead by example. If you want to be where we are, you're welcome to follow by example. I don't need to enforce shit on you. Just be humanitarian about it. Um,
Yeah, but we're the world police. We can't do that.
exactly, big brother for the world. But guess what? That's changing quickly. Um,
Go. It's
so
long overdue.
I
Long
agree.
overdue.
Well, I hope whatever does emerge as the big brother of the world, with it's going to have. So far, I think China's probably propositioned for the biggest lead,
They are poised for it.
and I don't think they're horrible with it. Like I think they're setting a pretty decent example. There are still some problems, of course. I could name many, like not the Rohingya, that's Burma, but what are they
The
called?
Uyghur, the Uyghur, Uyghurs.
The Uyghurs, the Muslim cultures, basically. That's You could
Yep.
sum them up by the Muslim cultures are always seem to be the problems as almost as much as the Jewish are. Um, so yeah, there are problems, but again, this comes down to the judgment, and like if we're not judging each other based on what we are, and we're trying to let people be as autonomous as possible, and interceding only when we need to, and understanding versus being authoritarian and enforcing. And this is like a fucking utopia, though. I understand it's not going to happen. So I often tell Rev I'm happy I'm not going to be here much longer, so I won't have to deal with it. That's a peace of mind for me for the future. uh,
And unfortunately, you're going to find out that reincarnation is real,
yeah, right.
and
Well, look,
you got to come back for it.
I mean, look, if you want to speculate, I don't think
No,
reincarnation is
I was just
impossible by
kidding,
some. No, I'm
but
not. I'm serious. Like even by physics, I think it makes sense. And but not reincarnation in that sense. Like reincarnation in
I
the fact that probably what we are, what we consist of throughout the fabric of whatever the universe is, could exist again in a similar, or even a same fashion. Um, but we just
if the
have no
universe
evidence of that. Yeah, yeah,
if the universe and time are technically infinite, then of course it's going to repeat.
right, exactly,
Of course it will.
exactly.
It's bound to.
But we
So
just
there
don't
will be
know that.
another you.
Yeah, yeah. That the thing is, we don't know if it's infinite, if it's finite, if
Nope.
the whole cosmological argument. We don't know if we're sitting inside of a snow globe in a child's room and he's just shaking us up just to watch and see what's happening. I mean, we don't know anything past the observable universe. So we have predictions. If predictions at those edges are true, it looks like we have some good answers. Like eventually entropy is going to take over and everything's going to spread out, and you know even atoms are going to be ripped apart, which doesn't make the substrate for us to exist anymore. So humans are going to any life, anything, matter, all that stuff is going to disappear within the thermodynamic equilibrium. The thing is, if there's a bubble of thermodynamic equilibrium here, there's going to be probably other bubbles of thermodynamic equilibrium elsewhere. The question is, does the stuff from here pass over to there? Does it? Who knows? Like this is all fucking speculation, man.
Exactly.
And it to me it doesn't really matter because that's where we get in the problems of people aggrandizing themselves over righteousness and judgment and things like that. Um, it's just sets
The
the
only
stage for it.
in my wife and I agree on this too. The only thing that religion has ever done that was good, in our opinion, well, it's done lots of small good, but for like a large good, is just that golden rule originally: do unto others
Mm,
as you would have them do unto you. Now, if everybody would just follow that simple thing,
yeah.
forget about all the other bullshit, just follow that simple thing.
Yeah. Well,
You
we've
know, do,
we've slipped into morality a little bit here, and maybe I don't want to cover
yes.
that yet. We'll
Okay,
save
well,
that. I think I might do that next week. I thought I might have to do a little more on logical selection and setting up the selection notions and stuff, but it seems it came across maybe a little bit easier than I thought. So um, I don't know. That I guess that's about it. Rev, you haven't spoken in a while. What's going on in your head, man?
yes, please.
Yell at me a little bit.
Well, I really don't know what to say. And you'll have to excuse me because I've taken my medicine,
Oh, no worries.
and so I'm a little floovy now.
No worries. At the minimum, I'm happy to hear your voice. So.
Damn, got a great voice.
Thanks.
So, I mean, yeah. So let's wrap it back around to logical selection.
Okay,
You guys,
sorry about the little tangent
it's
there.
okay. Do you get the concept? Does it make sense to you? Does it, you know, how far, how much, well, I guess just does it make sense to you?
It makes sense to me, and this gives me a lot of things to think about now.
Mm, mm, mm,
So
Mhm.
you've stimulated some activity over here,
mm,
because
mm, mm,
now I'm gonna have to look into this a little bit more.
mm,
And I love it when people do that to me when they tell me something, and I'm like, okay, that's a good idea, or I think it's even a bad idea, whichever. Because it gets me to go look things up,
mm, mm,
and
mm.
the more I learn, the better I feel.
So eat
I'm
your
willing to
beans with
learn
every meal.
just about anything.
I said, so eat your beans with every meal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good thing. I mean, I like thinking. I like being brought to novel ideas that I at least maybe I don't know of, and again, I've tried looking around a lot to see if there's someone else working on or furthering this particular concept. There are things that hover around it, but nothing in kind of the evolutionary selective pressures idea that I can find. I even, of course,
Uh,
I checked with the bots. I was like, is this unique? And bots are like, yeah, this is a unique take on this versus it brings these notions together, but you're adding something significant here. And I'm like, well, is the bot just bullshitting me now? Or so, yeah.
Patting you on the back and going, "Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
idea."
Yeah, now go kill yourself. Yeah. Yeah, good idea.
Here, let me say something really racist real quick while you're waiting.
I gotta go pee, as you probably might have suspected. I'll be right back.
All right.
I did predict that. Oh, I totally understand the whole medicated thing there, Rev. There for a while, I was on some pretty strong medications myself.
Yeah. After the Chantix, after about an hour, I start having a little problem holding on to thoughts. But
Still not
I'm day
smoking?
yeah day 6 now.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, that's what I was going for is, and I'll have an end date on the medicine, so I'll get back to normal, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just a little rough to hold on to thoughts with it.
There was a point. I'll give you this to look forward to. I quit smoking on September 11th, 2014.
All right.
Middle of December. So 3 months after I had my last cigarette, that was the first point I noticed where, man, food tastes better, things smell better. I can breathe walking up my stairs.
Right.
So it took about 3 months, but it was an amazing. That was the moment when I realized, yeah, this is better, way better.
Yeah, my father quit smoking for a little while. He went back to it, but he told me that when he wasn't, yeah, and food tasted better and everything, he had more energy.
I can vouch for that too. So yeah, it does. It's definitely one of the best decisions you're going to make in your life.
Right.
I was a heavy smoker. I'd smoked for 33 years, and at the very end, the day I quit, I was on 3 packs a day,
Right.
and I could no longer afford that anyway. It was killing us financially.
Yeah. I smoked for 38 years, and I've wanted to quit for a long time, but I couldn't do it in any conventional method. I tried the over the counters, and either they didn't work, like the patches, or the gum and the lozenges made me sick in my stomach. I even tried an app that helps you taper off, and it's really easy to just hit uninstall.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, one of the hardest things would hit me is like if you add up how much it's cost you over time.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I
that's the heaviest hitter for me.
Yeah, but
I had an app that tracked that how many cigarettes I haven't smoked and how much money I've saved.
Yeah.
oh
And
right
the
on.
last and the last time I looked at it, I was over $20,000 I had saved so far. But I
Yeah,
quit in 2014, so it's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And the number of cigarettes I haven't smoked is really impressive. I wish that app was open right now.
I think the same thing about cats too, though. I'm like, man, how much money would I save if I didn't have these fucking cats?
I had cats and dogs. I'm down to one cat, and I realized, hey, I got more money.
And then I'm like, well, how much money would I save if I didn't have these damn children?
Hey, they age out eventually, but then they'll still hit you up for money.
Yeah, sometimes they do actually pay back, so that's all right.
Oh no, mine still hit me up for money.
Yeah, no, I my kids pay me back every day, not monetarily, but just having them.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
I can tell my oldest son though that it's really all that trouble you put me through when you were younger, 100% worth it because these grandkids are awesome.
Yeah. Today, one of the greatest things is being able to sit through playing like a song with my youngest, her playing drums and me playing guitar and singing and stuff. So I'm hoping to
Very
have an
cool.
event. I'm hoping to have an event soon. I think that'd be really cool. Um,
My son and I used to do that ourselves. We'd go out in the garage, he'd play drums or I'd play drums and the other would
Good.
play guitar.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. That's good healing stuff. Maybe not for
It was
everybody, but it is for me.
it's just finding things that where you and your kids can be on the same playing field. That's always good.
Mm,
I always enjoyed that.
yeah. Me and anybody, honestly. I think beyond my family, my joint family here, like you guys are the only ones I interact with on a daily basis. So I don't really see many people.
Well, we like you a lot, so or we wouldn't keep coming back.
I appreciate that. I like you all too.
So
All right, back.
interesting concept, though.
Yeah, back to the logical selection. So I could give more examples. I think we've quantified the examples well enough. Water, elements,
Right?
some sort of gradients there, and now how detailed we are in what we understand, and we don't think about things like water. Oh, another one was like the cleanliness of tools through medicine, right? Of their equipment, their medical surgery equipment. At some point in
Oh
time,
yeah.
we realized keeping them clean and sanitized dropped mortality rates, uh, dropped infections, dropped convalescence terms, dropped all kinds of factors by understanding these things, that there are these biotics that live within our daily life, and keeping them out of things like wounds is helpful. And now that we understand those at the microbial level and even deeper, it's not even a question that's on people's minds today, really, for the most part. What to do about them is heavily still, which is ridiculous, um, and where they came from too. That's the funny thing. Yeah, I guess we could go in. I could do a whole thing on biology and microbiology and virology and all that stuff. But the point is more about like the more detailed we get in our understanding, the more bullshit that just doesn't fly. Um, where that
And there will
contrasts,
still be little pockets of resistance, though.
well, yeah, there is. There's a huge pocket of resistance. I would call that government and politics. Um, so here's the thing, right? Government, and I've learned this recently, government is mostly people who are educated in law for the most part. There
This
aren't a
is
lot
true.
of there aren't a lot of scientists. There aren't a lot of doctors. There are people who have doctorates, PhDs, but they're usually in law or ethics or morals, some philosophy, some shit like that, right? Which those are the
Or
fringe, most,
business.
yeah, or business, right? That's a good one. Business and legal. Yes, you're absolutely right. These are overt truths. We don't have a lot of science, right? So that's the life of government and politics, is the lack of science. It's all this judgment, irresolute judgment, because we're not considering the real facts of things, the truths of things. Otherwise, we wouldn't be considering things like the GDP and the stock market and people's wealth growth and control of markets and job, the crazy look at jobs that we do today. For instance, to dig into this one, is like we say, well, our jobs didn't die off that much. Well, that excludes a whole lot of people who just fell out of the job market, right? They're not even trying anymore because they know it's impossible. They're either going to be working at slave wages just to get by with, is not even enough to live off of, or not work. I mean, that's not a huge judgment. You could probably kill squirrels or eat bugs, or forage for shit and possibly risk your life of eating something poisonous, by those same regards, and be much more happy than
Well, the
working for a shit wage.
funny thing, though, people that are working for shit wages and people that aren't working at all
Yeah.
both end up getting assistance. because
True.
they just
Yeah.
can't make it on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fine. I honestly, I don't think we give enough assistance.
I don't
Um,
think we do either.
yeah, that's the problem. The problem is they're settled into living an indignant life, right? They're living on bare minimums. And this is often why this issue comes up of, we shouldn't let people buy high quality shrimp with their SNAP or e-bucks or whatever, whatever the service is
Right.
that provides them their extra money, right? They shouldn't be able to buy high quality stuff. Well, why not? I mean, why do people who have the money buy high quality stuff? The only difference is they have the money. If you got the money, why not? Well, they're starving. All right, but they're also indignant. Like they're trying to gain some dignity there in life. They want to feel like they're not the dregs of society. I mean, this is all kind of psychological things that we have mapped out empirically with evidence. People just don't
Right.
know this shit, because psychology is gay. It's woke. You're gaslighting me. Um, it only matters
I'm,
what I think, and I just want to whatever is best for me is best for the people around me who keep me comfortable. Yada
well,
yada
it's
yada
like
yada.
they ask, why do people do drugs or why do people drink? And I'm like, don't you get sick and tired of feeling bad?
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes they just either want to feel nothing or just feel a little bit better.
yeah. There's a lot of
And if
more.
that,
Yeah, there's a lot
and
of
if it works,
moralizing that goes on there about
yeah,
like, look, addiction, what we know empirically today is addiction is more a behavior than it is a substance. Substance definitely contributes to the behavior. Absolutely. I'm
right.
not going to refute that. Um, and it's usually because of abusive, neglectful, whatever types of environments, people who aren't, well,
Well,
people who are just, yeah, yeah, it's environmental
just the
mostly.
just the fact that you can get to it addicted to things that aren't substances, right there, proves that.
Hmm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I know people in my. I watched a woman that I've known. I watched her switch from drinking heavily
Hmm.
to going to church, not just on Sundays, every day. Then she went to bingo and won $3,200 the very first time she played bingo, and now she is a full blown gambling junkie. Full blown.
Yeah, yeah.
So
My early
she just
career,
traded one for another one.
yeah, my early career was in the restaurant industry, and that just attracts those types of behaviors. And I've witnessed it all, man, from one end to the other of whatever people want to call depravity or just what are you thinking type judgment. And I agree with what Rev said earlier today with me that there is still a metacognition going on there. There, it's like I know that other people think these things are wrong. I know that other people think that I shouldn't do these things. I know that medicine says these things are unhealthy for my body, but my body is telling me that the thing that is the best for me to do in this moment is this thing that's going to get me the reward of whatever I've built it up to be. This is all kind of mappable and diagnosable and traceable through what we know empirically. Um, I do the same thing. I've done the same goddamn thing. I've been in so many situations that I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. Um,
Like me cracking open that block of government cheese. I know I shouldn't be doing this.
yeah.
I can't. There's a heck of a story behind that. How we got that. I was like,
Hmm.
man, I ain't seen government cheese in years.
Well, let me take a little left-hand shift here because this is really interesting. Something just surfaced in my head, some research I did recently. So and hopefully he'll join here sometime soon. He's at a meeting right now, but my buddy Petri, the one that I'm going to have a show with on Saturday, he's Finnish. He's from Finland. We've talked a lot about his culture and stuff, but some of the research that I've done, and he can refute this later or not if he wants to, but some of the research that I've done, and he's told me before that it's a very secular society. It's a very non-religious society there. Um, some of the extended research I've done is that they're not a very morally deliberative society. They're very deeply deliberative and evaluative than they are moral judgment. Um, Now, here's the contrast. The contrast that we've kind of worked through together is that one, they're always in the news as being like one of the happiest countries in the world, right? The
Right?
alternative to this is they also have very high suicide rates.
Huh. So I guess when you're not the happiest person in the world or country in the world,
Well,
I don't
right.
that
So here's where I would contend, all right?
I'm having a little break with that. That's
Here
go
exactly.
ahead.
This is the point. This is the whole point. But here's exactly where I am. Like, of course I react the same way. I did it in the moment he told me that. I was like, "Wow. That's really interesting." And I had to think about it and look at it and research it and then think about it more. And what I come to the conclusion is, well, not a conclusion. What I think is happening here is the research that I've discovered is they're not only just a secular society, but as I said earlier, they're less of a morally deliberative society. I'm at a place where if a person thinks that their life is just unsustainable, they're suffering, and they just don't want to do it anymore, that's their autonomous choice. They should be able to do we should go through the steps and say, well, even at should, I have to warn myself because we haven't resolved this property philosophically, but we do have ethics in society that says societies should generally try to live this way in order to have a quote unquote successful or civil society. I like to minimize those things, but anyways, resolving all that down to talk a little bit more generally, um, I don't think people should not take their lives if it's not their, if it's their choice. If it's their choice that they're suffering, I don't think we have any basis in judging that as long as we can understand that they are. I mean, look, we do the same thing for sentencing and legalities, right? People go to court if they're generally sometimes evaluated to see if they're actually psychologically capable to participate in that process. Otherwise, generally, they go into some sort of psychotherapy or, something like that. I think the same process could be coherent to say if you're psychologically capable by the best of our determinations, we have no reason to intercede with you wanting to take your own life. Maybe even that's part of the reason why that contributes to the happiness of the society. Because people who are just born miserable can't handle what's going on because, trust me, without trying to be as judgmental as possible, there's a lot of fucked up shit that goes on in this world. But
Yeah.
that I am not proud to be a human. And I've lived experiences. I'm good. I'm comfortable now. I have autoimmune diseases which make me fucking miserable. And sometimes I'm ready to say, you know what, I'm ready to throw in the towel and I don't want anybody to tell me no. I've fought hard to make that last as long as possible. And I'm not quite there yet, but I'm edging. Like I'm an edge lord there, you know. I'm trying to hold
Well,
up that nut.
well, I don't disagree with you. All right, I don't disagree with
Cool.
you, but where you were saying if people are of sound mind, we shouldn't interfere. So I would think that taking other people in your life I mean, I have been close in my life to that, and
Me
I'm
too. Many
glad
times, yeah.
now
Yeah.
that I didn't succumb
Yeah.
because there has been a lot to my life since then that has been actually really good. I have grandchildren now, and they're awesome.
Cool. And I'm happy for that,
So,
man. I think you're a great guy. I'm happy to know
so
you. And let me
I,
tell you, I'm in the same place, right? I'm like I am what you might quantify as kind of suicidal tendencies. Like I have, and not until I even was aware of it, I've tried my whole life to try and take my own self out by the things that I've done for numerous reasons, by many diagnoses, all these kinds of things. In this moment, I'm happy that I've made it to this moment, right? I'm satisfied. I wouldn't say happy. I'm satisfied and content that I've made it to this moment, and for evaluative reasons, right? I'm happy. I'm evaluatively happy because I'm happy I haven't damaged my wife and family, my kids, to take my own life and
Right.
make them upset and make them experience further discomfort because they're not in a place where I am, where this is life. Death doesn't really mean a whole lot of things. And if I'm gone, just remember me for who I am. Don't be sad. Move on. Blah, 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 blah. All the philosophical nonsense that we could walk through about why it's going to happen anyway at some point in time. So, you know, this is what there's a philosophy or a theory out there called terror management theory, like, that humans are rigged innately to just fear, period. It's either expressed in anxiety or judgment, or because you know your existence, you know the things that are possible, and you don't want those things to occur. So you use predictive analysis to say, and this is very rudimentary predictive analysis. It's like just take in all the shit you think, which could be as irresolute as the things that you see and experience, versus the metacognitive stuff that says, maybe all humans aren't trying to kill me. I don't want to go too deep into that kind of stuff. But yeah, we have these rationale that we go through. This is all kind of human behavior. This is natural shit that we go through. It's knowing what we know today of why we do those things that's super important. If you don't have that understanding, you act on those rationale, generally speaking. Um, and it's very low resolution judgment, um, not based in any real grounded fact or information that's calculable, quantifiable, evaluative. Sorry, I'm getting a little drunk. Um,
Well, no, you used a sentence there in your explanation that I use for when a theist asks me if I have faith in anything.
mhm.
I go, yeah, I have faith when I walk out my door that most humans don't want to kill me.
Yeah. Well,
That's a pretty easy one.
this is the thing. Like most people don't. Rev and I were talking about this earlier today, which is something that I would. Well, I don't need to call it because it exists, right? It's what it means to be an evolutionary fit species, right?
Right?
Overtly, like most living species who have gone through our evolutionary paths are cooperative. And this is like most history before we even had the ability to define something as how we should react or act. We just did it reflectively off of each other, right? This is what most people don't understand is what it means to be an evolutionary fit species is what it means to most people to be moral. But most people are like, well, I'm now this evolutionary fit species. Not that I can define it that way, but I'm this thing and everybody else should be this way because it's the way I feel. It's the way I see people. But then somebody kills somebody. No, that's wrong. We should judge that. And that's evil. Started off early as like we should burn them. We should nail them to a cross and let them suffer for however long until they die.
Hang
And
them,
then,
hang them in the
yeah,
town square.
exactly. Hang them in the town square. To now today, it's more like more resolutely justified a little bit. Like it's still like the hungry judge effect still exists, and all these unconscious behaviors still exist that we just pass by. Just because most of society is based on legalities and not scientific truths or evidence. Um, so it's really hard to believe we are where we are. So again, I'm back to like we can just continue to live out this evolution, which is probably more likely, and I succumb to that. I give up to that. I capitulate. I'm content where I am because I'm comfortable. I've made it somehow. I've made it to a comfortable place. I know 99% of other people I interact with on here are in some form of shitty situation, and that sucks, and I hate that, and I wish I could do something about all of them. Almost every person I've met on this place from the beginning. I have people years old who are
Um,
probably in worse circumstances than people that I interact with on a daily
well,
basis, and I wish I could do
let me
something to help them. You know.
just let me put it this way: that I like I said, I may be in the lower 8%, but I feel fortunate.
Yeah, yeah.
A
Right.
lot of people in my situation would just do nothing but complain.
Yeah.
I got to fix my truck tomorrow, but at least I have a truck to fix. You
Right. All
know,
right. Well, let me pose a
I
hypothetical to you then. What if you fell homeless tomorrow for some unknown circumstance?
okay, if it happened, I would find a place to be. I
Okay.
have a lot of friends who would let me, crash with them,
Do you
and
know what we
I could bring my whole family to at least some of them.
do you know what we call that?
What?
Entitlements, opportunities that other people don't necessarily have.
Yeah, I would have absolutely nowhere to go to if I lost my home. I'd be living in my truck.
I know so many people like that. Like so many
Well,
people. I'm fortunate. Like I have family that'll back me up if I fall, and I have in the past have family that have backed me up
all right,
when I've hit hard times. So
Jeet
or
and Rev.
friends or whatever. So
What's today? Wednesday.
uh February
Today's Wednesday,
11th.
right? Um, my drummer becomes homeless this Saturday. Nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And if we don't figure out something before then, guess where she's going to be staying?
Some
Right
homeless
here in my
shelter.
house.
Oh yeah, right
No,
there.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
right here with me.
yeah,
Because I am not going to let my friend be living under a bridge when it's this fucking cold.
yeah. Well, here's the other aspect of that, man. Um, I would do the same thing to a limit because I can't house everybody.
Well, I have a limit. There is
Yeah,
a limit.
yeah. And maybe I already do.
I've
It's
already had.
yeah, like it's already that human tendency to judge to say, well, I'm doing something, why aren't you? Not saying you're doing this, but I'm just trying to point out this thing like you know it to who this goes all the way back to some original concept that was made thousands of years ago by Plato called Plato's cave allegory, if you're familiar with it, right?
I am
your
not.
your truths are only what your truths are. Everybody else's truths are different. If I'll run through it real quick here. All right, think of a cave, and just abstract everything else you know about life and living and reality and regularity and normativity, all those things. Just put that aside and let's just create a fantasy world where there's a cave. And we have people in that cave, and these people are chained to a wall. All right. And that wall is lined up to a point where all they can see is a wall in front of them. And there's a light that projects behind them and casts shadows on the wall. This is all these people have known from birth to the moment in which they're experiencing in the moment. All they see is these shadows, right? Now, behind them is sort of another wall or structure that they can't see behind, but other people come in and out and they manipulate what these people see, what they hear. Sometimes they come in and they're whispering and they're. This is like, think about this. From the moment you've known anything in your life, this is what you've known, right? So shadows on the wall, the people who are chained up on the walls next to you, you guys interact. All right, now here's where the allegory takes a shift. You take one of those people that were chained up on the wall for most of their life in relative adulthood, and you take them out of the cave and you let them experience life. You let them walk around and talk to everybody else who exists, and however long you decide, however long it takes, whatever point you're trying to prove, you let them experience what they want to, or what you want them to experience, or what they can experience. Now, now that they've become acclimated to what's outside, you take them back in the cave and you chain them back up on that wall and you let them stew. How successful do you think they're going to be in teaching all the other people on that wall that there's another reality out there? There's a whole, like, life exists, all these things, all these fantasies and things that you've never heard of. You know, it's out there, man. You're one in what? I don't know. How many people you got chained on a wall? 10, 50? Who cares? Take it as far as you want. This is a thought experiment.
Love thought experiments.
Yeah. This is like we thought, like Plato thought of this thousands of years ago. This is the solipsism perspective, right? Like
Right.
and I'll jump to solipsism and say there's a couple different notions of solipsism, right? Solipsism one is like I'm the only thing exists, nothing else exists, blah. But there's a spectrum to that, right? The
Right.
truth of solipsism is no one can escape that they experience the entire universe, everything that they have ever known through their own senses, and they just can't escape that. Period. We can't prove anything past that.
Correct. Yeah. Because even if you try to understand something from another's experience, you're still using your same sensory organs to absorb that information.
Collective
And
knowledge, everything we've ever, all the brilliant people in the world who you've heard of and heard, all the religious and God and everything, every fucking thing that has ever been experienced has experienced by you.
Mhm.
Can't escape that.
Exactly. We each only have our own window to the outside.
Yep. Yeah, sure. This has been rewritten hundreds of times over sci-fi and fantasy and blah 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 blah. But
Yep.
these are fundamental truths that people just put aside at every moment when they just embrace themselves in what is reality, what is existence, what are other people. Like these are just fundamental truths to people because we experience them that way. I have a lot of contention with that. We could jump into a lot of issues around those notions and a lot of, other deep things, but let's keep it at that notion and just accept that there are other people in the world, right? Um,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
yeah, so we've accepted there are other people in the world. We accept we can't fucking tell them. We can maybe like force them to believe something that we want to make them believe, like hold a sword at their throat and you believe this or you die. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We have things like,
They'll say they do
yeah, we
to
have
keep from
like
dying.
Stockholm syndrome, which we know of is a psychological condition that you start to empathize and sympathize with your captor, and all this fucking shit we can put together and link together like Legos. But no, it's what I feel. What I feel is more important than all that stuff. That's where I
Hmm.
get lost, man. Um,
I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people even get lost before that.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. Well, I've said it before. I've said it in the past, and I think my maybe unique perspective here is facing my mortality has kind of given me this position of neutrality and just evaluating things as they are because I'm no longer scared of death. It doesn't bother me. It's going to happen. It happens to everybody. I'm not scared of like other things that can happen in life because I know these are all possibilities. I don't want them to happen. I don't want to experience the emotions from them. All those other factors that we can go through. Um,
I stand with R and Ra on the whole death thing.
yeah.
I don't fear being dead. I fear getting dead
Yeah. I'm not even sure I
because
fear
that can
that
be a
anymore.
painful process.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I fear that anymore. I fear more what I experience other people, the suffering other people go through, like my kids and my
Right.
wife, and those are the things that mostly sit in the back of my mind. But I've even kind of
Well,
resolved myself at this point that there's probably not much. I can do the best I can. That's the best I can do, and I don't know if that's like determined or not. But I'm just gonna do as I do anyway.
well, as
Um,
you're being the parent and being an older, you've experienced loss in your life,
yeah, yeah,
and you know how that is emotionally to people.
yeah. And I
And if
definitely
we
look
could,
at it
if
different today than I did when I was younger. So yeah, yeah,
of course you do, you're older, you have a different perspective on it now.
yeah. Well, I was
But
indoctrinated with a lot of that fear, even though
of course,
I'm fortunate that I was never like indoctrinated with the religion aspect. The fear was always still there. Like the fear that I should fear dying, I should fear all this stuff. It's like this goes and I'm not a conspiracist, as in I think terror management theory is the thing that explains everything, but I think fear is a huge fundamental part of where humans go wrong. Like we instill this fear in each other. Um, you
And
know.
fear is a big driving emotion for a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was
Like racism, for example,
yeah,
that's driven by fear.
it was
100%.
evolutionarily advantageous at some point in time when we were smaller and more tenuous in our existence. Fear made sense because fear meant uncertainty. Uncertainty meant possible annihilation, possible damage, possible, collateral damage, whatever you want to call it. That made sense. Now we dominate this fucking planet. Now we're afraid of each other.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense. It doesn't make evolutionary sense. It only makes evolutionary sense in the sense that we are allowed to build our own normative experiences. And then nobody can prove anything to anybody else, no matter what you want to say. If you think you proved something to someone else, I would completely contend that. But again, I don't require other people to believe that what I believe. So, um,
Well, you just also stated that a lot of fear is taught.
yeah,
It's taught to us.
yeah,
You aren't born with that fear.
yeah. Well, it's innate too.
So,
It is kind of innate, but I think we know enough to teach ourselves to be wary of it. Like teaching children at a young, like, or maybe not inculcating or in our actions or our behaviors that death is something to fear, you know, initially. Like that seems to be an initial thing. Like you teach kids death is, even like we can go back in history and talk about nursery rhymes and, we indoctrinated children with this innate fear. And
and fairy tales. Oh
of
my
course,
God, they were
yeah, of
terrifying.
course, a lot of our history was religious as well. So people are willing to excise the religious part, but still keep the fear. That's my problem. Um, yeah,
Well, I see a lot of people today have anxiety issues
sure.
that
Hmm.
they seem unable to be in a group of people or even speak to people that they don't know personally.
Hmm.
I've seen this. And I don't see how that could be an evolutionary advantage.
To not talk to people.
So, yeah, to not talk to people, to not be comfortable around more than like anyone, to not be comfortable around people you don't know
Interesting.
personally.
Well, funny enough, I made a recent short, and I'm planning on making more. Motivation, I think I've explained to you, is part of my problem. That's one of the areas that I want to address, and it goes along the evolutionary attention lines, like why we developed attentions in the way we do, and it also goes into like why we're so enthralled with social media and why it captures us so easily. But this is all evolutionary stuff, man. And so if you see somebody who has these behaviors, they're justified in their behaviors. Their behaviors are valid. They are just literally acting out, number one, their environment, what they were taught. Number two, their genetic behaviors that were inculcated to them. Number three, none of it was their fucking fault. They didn't choose any of it.
Well, speaking as somebody who experiences that, uh, I'd have to say that evolutionarily speaking, we weren't the apex predator when we first showed up. It was time and intelligence and industrialization that made us the true apex predators on the earth. And as an apex predator, one of the things that make you successful is to recognize your enemy. So if you were to ask me when I'm living in my most fearful, why I don't talk to people I don't know, it would be because I know they have the ability to hurt me
Or at
and that
least
they're
fear
the
of it.
only ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At least that's some sort of fear that you hold because of predictive capabilities, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, you anticipate behaviors that can possibly be a threat to you. Absolutely, that's evolutionary. Um,
I then I must be broken because I do not experience that at all.
No, you're
Well,
not broken, man. You're
I
you're
used to
an
be very, very trusting. And no, you're just living your experience,
yeah.
and I'm just living mine. I
Yes.
used to trust everyone. I used to think that you should trust people till they give you a reason not to. And doing that burned me financially, emotionally, physically, even.
Same,
And
same.
so finally, I've learned that no, if you want my trust, you have to earn it. I can't give it away freely. It hurts too bad.
Mm-hmm.
So if I make everybody earn it, number one, that limits me to people because not everybody's going to want to earn it. Some people just feel entitled to it. Well, you don't know me. Well, yeah, and that's the reason, but that's not good enough for a lot of people. You know, on another hand, if the smaller my circle, the less I can be hurt, and if that circle only includes a person who's chosen to be with me and other lives that I helped create, that's a pretty damn good circle you can depend on.
So if I can jump in here,
Go right ahead.
I want to wrap this back around to logical selection, right? This is the thing, like we know why these behaviors happen. We know why some people are antisocial. Like nothing ever 100%, right? There are no certainties. Like we can't calculate every quantum effect that has occurred that has caused the macro effect that is very predictable within our universe and our physical environment. But we know behaviors. We know psychologically, we know sociologically, we know primatologically, we know proto-primatologically, we know like all the way back, we know where these behaviors all emerge from, right? In evolution, someone who was antisocial had an evolutionary possible advantage of at some time. Number one is the option. Number two, evolution was just trying another particular strategy to see if it worked, and maybe it's vestigial, maybe it's neutral, you know, anywhere in that degree of where it's emerging. Um, you know, to the other end where maybe they didn't form any useful thing at all and they're slowly being evolved out now. I mean, the whole thing is all this thing along pressures. That's kind of like a natural selection example, like where our behaviors just cause these natural progressions, right? Logical selection says we have all this psychological and sociological and biological and neurobiological and physiological information that describes all the stuff you're talking about, Larry. Most people just don't know it, you know? Um, we know there are neurodivergent people in the world. I'm one of them. Neurodivergent
True.
people can be on a huge spectrum of complete disengagement from any interaction, from any social engagement. And because you act a certain way doesn't mean other people are going to act a certain way. That's called, um, what is that? That's anecdotal experience. And that's also judgment. That's where we get into moralization. Like I act a certain way, so everybody should act a certain way, right? Um, we
I would
know
just question.
we know these
Well,
spectrums exist. That's all. So go ahead.
I don't think everybody should act like me. I find this to be a problem at
Sure,
times,
sure. And that makes sense. That
and
makes total sense. Yeah.
and you know, there has to be a happy medium, and I don't know how to find it.
I think the happy medium is we just have to realize what we know and stop forcing people to act the way that we or society think other people should act. Because I got to tell you, from what I see through overt evolution from the beginning till now, we've done what we've needed to do. This part is just one of those aberrant mechanisms that's like going wrong, you know, and might actually cause us to be what we would be no longer an evolutionary fit species. Like we might extinguish ourselves. So, and that's not good or bad. That just means we disappear from the record at that point. You know, we're no longer part of the history of the universe or whatever. So,
First, will carry on without us quite
yeah.
well.
Well, the planet will absolutely, and the universe. Yes, true. So,
Yeah, well, the planet will probably do better without us, but that's a whole other
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a whole other cat.
I gotta pee and grab another drink. I'll be right back. Actually, I'm
All right.
gonna stop the recording. I think we've done a really good job today. I think we've had some really good conversations. So if you guys want, we can stay here or we can move down to another room or whatever. But I'm gonna
Well, I'm
stop recording and then pee and stuff. So
all right. Well, I have that commitment here at 12:30 over at the other the talk token talk, and we'll see if anybody shows up
oh nice. Where is that?
over at my server.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like 10 more minutes.
well, I'm done.
Yeah,
So
it's
I'm
about 10
happy to
minutes.
come over there and join. So
All right, and we can talk about anything there. It's just an excuse to get high and bullshit.
awesome. Well, hey, look, I want to say, Alex, sorry for if we're leaving while you came in, but thank you for coming in and joining. I appreciate you, brother.
Oh, it's 100%. I'm just listening, and right now I'm taking a political values test.
Ah,
Interesting.
well, Alex will probably join over at the token talk.
Yeah, yeah, we'll pick
So
up from there. But thank you everybody for joining in, and y'all take care.
You too.
absolutely.